Good morning, folks.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Good morning, Facebook. I'm incognito today. My name is Caleb Miller. I'm wearing a fancy disguise here. I voted for Stephen Westerfield for state representative in this past primary. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. I'm a strong supporter of that guy. So I guess let me start off saying that Stephen got banned for 30 days for a comment that hurt somebody's butt. I don't know who. I have a few ideas, but that's neither here nor there. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I actually jotted a few things down on here. I'm going to try to keep on target. I'm going to try to go off script here. Trying to get some practice in because we're going to turn this thing, as soon as Stephen gets out of jail, he's going to turn this thing into a weekly show where he's going to start bringing in weekly guests, and they're going to have a new topic each week. Sorry if the union on my flag looks like it's facing the wrong way to you guys. I promise in person the union is on the left where it should be. I'm not really sure how you guys are viewing it, if it's backwards or not. So anyway, good morning. It's going to be 30 days. It's going to be hard to build an audience over here on this page, so our videos ain't going to get real elaborate, but I got to get this one off my chest today. Okay? So let me first start off by saying that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. That's a quote by Thomas Jefferson. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Okay, so now that brings me to my next point of my rebuttal to everyone claiming that, oh my God, Steven is crazy, his videos, he's off the charts, he's just drinking coffee, slurping his coffee, and spitting all over the screen. I've heard a lot of that. I've heard a lot of feedback about my videos, and some people are just like, man, I just can't get behind that guy. He's crazy. But let me say another one. Okay? All it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. My anger doesn't come from a place of mental instability. Well, I guess maybe because the teachings do tell us that in the end they will call those things that are good evil and evil good. So, that could be where we're at, but it's not because of my mental state. I'm not mentally unstable. What I am is I am extremely pissed off. And I'm going to try to say this quietly and calmly. Now, I don't have an inside voice. I have a very loud, projective voice. So I'm going to I might whisper a little bit. So if my audio goes out, give me a shout. Okay, so back to the mental health issue and the mental instability. Look, you guys, I'm fine. But what I am is I am pissed off that the founders, the fabric that our nation was founded upon, doesn't seem to matter to people anymore. And that pisses me off. It gives me two things. It gives me two things. It doesn't just piss me off. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see us sit here as a society and, for the sake of convenience, not bother looking back at the Bill of Rights. And I don't care if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or you're an independent. We all can find common ground in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution of this country. Okay? We can say there's a lot of discussion out there that, it's a terror, the Declaration is a terrorist document, the Constitution didn't, include blacks, and I will agree. But by time we got to the 13th Amendment, which was only 3 amendments past the original Bill of Rights, okay? By time we got to the 13th Amendment and got it ratified, we were working on righting our wrongs. We were working on righting the wrongs from slavery. And, a lot of people don't like Lincoln because Lincoln talked about freeing slaves, but yet he owned them. And I agree, that's complete hypocrisy. It really is. But Lincoln was a genius in the way that he went about doing what he did. He used rules of war, and because the South declared slaves as their property, we could confiscate, we could seize the property of the enemy during wartime. So we would just go take their slaves, since they called them property, we would just go take them away. So I'm getting a little far off subject, that's why I wrote this down. So anyhow, I'm just filling in for Stephen Westerfield. My name's Caleb Miller. I'm filling in for Stephen Westerfield until he gets out of jail. Facebook jail, not real jail, Facebook jail. I'll be careful. Okay, so I'm coming online today to talk about, again, the representative republic and the job of what a state representative is. Now, some of you may remember that Stephen's campaign slogan was people over politics, right? So, what does people over politics mean to Stephen? People over politics to Stephen means that a representative of the people's job is not to go into office and vote on their own personal views, opinions, and agendas. Okay? I believe that a representative of the people's job is to go into that office and represent the people that elected them, not their own self-serving views. So, that leads me to the topic of today's video. We're going to talk real quick about the Republican Party platform. I am going to go ahead and read you. I'm going to actually start at the last section of the Strengthening Illinois Families plank, and then I'm going to read through the whole thing for you, and then go back to the end again. So bear with me for just a second. This is in the 2016 Illinois GOP platform that we all voted on at the convention in 2016 to put in place. Okay, and we'll do videos later on what the convention is. Okay, we believe that parents, not bureaucrats, are best positioned to make decisions regarding the health and welfare of their minor children. And we support public policies that preserve and strengthen parental rights. Okay? Now that's the very last paragraph of the Strengthening Illinois Families plank. Alright, what does that mean to me? That means a lot to me, given my background of advocating for parental equality at the onset of separation or divorce. Okay? But for me, this platform that I'm reading to you is why I am a Republican. Okay? And when our representatives start steering away from this platform that we all voted on and that we stand true and we hold these as our core principles, when they get into office and they steer away from that, that is why they can no longer align with why I am a Republican. Everybody said, well, why didn't you run as an independent? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Because I am a Republican. This Republican Party and the rhetoric they're spewing out here today, that is not the Republican Party, okay? I want you to listen to this plank carefully as I read it off. This is the entire Strengthening Illinois Families plank within the Illinois GOP platform. We recognize that a strong family based on the institution of marriage, sanctified by God, and strengthened by the legal protections afforded to that institution by government, is the basic building block of society. Accordingly, we support public policies that promise the formation, endurance, autonomy, of the nuclear family, and that empower parents to provide a safe and nurturing home for their children. We recognize that religious freedom is the first freedom as enshrined in the First Amendment. While we oppose discrimination in any form, we also oppose public policies that seek to compel or coerce individuals, businesses, religious institutions, or other organizations to violate their core religious beliefs. We acknowledge and welcome the diversity of opinions within our party regarding families, including the views that marriage is defined as the union of one man and one woman, that traditional families are worthy of the same respect and legal protections as traditional families, or non-traditional families are worthy of the same respect and legal protections as traditional families. And that marriage ought to be the purview of religious institutions and not of government. We recognize that the state reserved to themselves implicitly throughout the United States Constitution and explicitly in the 10th Amendment the power to legislate on matters related to marriage and family, and we oppose efforts by the federal government to encroach on that reserved power. We believe that parents, not bureaucrats, are best positioned to make decisions regarding the health and welfare of their minor children, and we support public policies that preserve and strengthen parental rights. That is the entire platform for strengthening Illinois families in the Illinois GOP. Now I urge you to take a strong look at Illinois Republican candidates and look at this platform and align them to this platform and see where their votes and their votes and any of that step outside of these boundaries. This is where the Republican Party is steering away from what the Republican Party is. The Republican Party of today is no longer the Republican Party of this platform, and by no means the party of Lincoln. Okay, so that's the party platform. And the reason I started off with that is you guys will kind of get back to it at the end when you see where I'm going with this video. So the next point that I'm going to speak about is House Bill 4113. Okay? House Bill 4113. It does three things in the law. Okay? The first thing that it does in the law is we have a presumption of fitness in the current Marriage and Dissolution Act that was put there in 2016 when the new Marriage and Dissolution Act took effect. Now, mind you, the Illinois State Bar Association, Maggie Bennett, and the Family Law Section Council of the Illinois State Bar Association wrote this language. Okay? And so now they wrote the language that states that it is presumed that both parents are fit, and the court shall place no restrictions on parental responsibilities unless the court finds, or no restrictions according to 600, 310, and 600, according to, unless the court finds by a preponderance of evidence that the parent's exercise of parenting time would seriously endanger the child. Okay, we have a couple big problems here. And I'm going to start off with the latter. Serious endangerment. Okay, so they're restricting parents' time on serious endangerment. But there is no legal definition of what serious endangerment means. So that means that it is purely left up to opinion. So what we see happening then is in one courtroom, the opinion of serious endangerment could be taking a kid's phone away, because that's a endangerment to their emotional health. Serious endangerment in another court's opinion could not be taking their phone away. That could just be viewed as personal judgment, parents' rights. Okay? And I say that because the argument becomes that we can't take judges' discretion away from them. So let me lay out another scenario. Let's go deep down in southern Illinois. Okay? Racism still exists. If you don't believe me, look up a gentleman by the name of Bob Romanek who just ran for Senate on a GOP ticket down there in the St. Clair County area, Monroe County, down there in that area. I believe it was the 57th Senate District, maybe, possibly. Look him up. Racism still exists. Okay? And it is. If we have judges sitting on a bench, we have an old white racist judge sitting on a bench in Southern Illinois, someone like Bob Romanek works his way up through the political spectrum, becomes a judge, and is sitting on a bench. You have a young black man walk into that courtroom. You have a young white girl walk into that courtroom. This young black man and this young white girl, consensually, the two of them got together and created a child. Okay? With a preponderance of evidence standard that we already use for the best interest of the child, preponderance of evidence equates to ruling on hearsay evidence, which just means spoken word from the person with no evidence to back it up, and it's basically her word against his, and so that's what it is. So the preponderance of evidence standard is where we're looking at to say that the courts find a serious endangerment, which there's no definition for. We've already established that. To come off of this presumption of fitness. Okay, now we have case law from the United States Supreme Court all the way dating back to the 1920s that have stated you cannot prove a parent unfit by anything less than clear and convincing evidence. Okay, so that is the standard of proof that we are using in the Illinois Marriage and Dissolution Act for this presumption of fitness, to overcome this presumption of fitness. Because here's where it becomes a slippery slope. Fitness and termination of parental rights are two different things. It's two separate hearings. First, you have to prove a parent unfit by clear and convincing evidence. Then, you have a couple options. You can then put in rehabilitative measures and say if you do A, B, and C, we'll give you your time. We'll give you time with your kids. Or we'll put you on supervised visits. Or we'll do this. We'll do that. But these are the conditions in which you have to follow to do so. And that is perfectly fine. That is great. It is absolutely needed. If we lived in a perfect world, we wouldn't have abusive parents and this stuff wouldn't be needed. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world or a perfect society. This stuff is needed. However, you cannot prove a parent unfit by preponderance of evidence. Rather, you then move to terminate parental rights or put rehabilitative measures in place. That second step is a complete separate step. Okay, now we've got case law from the 1920s to just earlier in 2018. Another ruling came down. Okay, so stating that you cannot find a parent unfit without clear and convincing evidence. And we also have embedded and precedent set that fit parents automatically are looking out for their child's best interest. Okay? So what 4113 is going to do, it's going to put in, also we don't have a starting point. Okay? We don't have a starting point for, good job, Brian, I'm glad you guys are listening at work. Amen, bro. I appreciate it. Glad you guys found me over here on this account. Or found me, Caleb Miller, representing Stephen Westerfield. Yeah. But anyway, so 4113, House Bill 4113 is going to correct the preponderance of evidence standard coming off clear and convincing, or the coming off of the presumption of fitness. It has to be clear and convincing evidence. We did not write in the presumption of fitness to be overcome by preponderance of evidence. The ISBA wrote that in. And now they want to get all mad because we are putting it back to clear and convincing, which is what is constitutionally set as a precedent to satisfy due process when considering a parent's fitness. Anything else is unconstitutional. Okay? So the ISBA, bureaucrats, remember that because the Republican platform, what is it? They believe that parents, not bureaucrats, are best positions to make the decisions regarding the health and welfare of their minor children. And they support public policies that preserve and strengthen parental rights. Okay? So, if you can be found unfit in the Marriage and Dissolution Act under a preponderance of evidence, who's to say that the court can then move to terminate your parental rights, which only needs to be done by preponderance of evidence, on the basis, and this is what the Supreme Court has laid out, you can terminate parental rights on a preponderance of evidence standard on the basis that you had to prove them unfit by clear and convincing. Okay? So fitness has to be done by clear and convincing. The best interest of the child, you would be motioning to move to terminate parental rights under the best interest standard of the child, not the fitness, the best interest. You've already been proven unfit by clear and convincing evidence. You've already had your due process when dealing with this fundamental right. Now they can move to terminate on preponderance. So here's what happens. We've got two options. We can leave it alone and wait for it to happen, wait for the courts to go ahead and rule a parent unfit by preponderance of the evidence. Then we can wait for a parent to go and lose their rights, have their rights terminated because a fitness hearing fitness has already been determined by the wrong standard of proof. Then we terminate by preponderance of evidence, and we have just committed a major due process violation. Here's my problem with that. The Illinois General Assembly doesn't seem to care. Their oath of office is to uphold to the best of their ability the Constitution of the United States of America. And if this is the best they've got, then the best of their ability is not good enough. They've got to go. I know this is the part where people start saying, oh my God, Stephen's getting crazy. Stephen's getting crazy. No, I'm getting a little excited. There's a crazy one for you. Now you guys can say that I'm unhinged. Okay. So, Stephen Reich is... Stephen Reich, Republican. Remember, I'm a Republican. I believe in party loyalty. But I don't believe in loyalty to a party or a candidate within the party that steps outside of these main principles. Okay? Now here's the thing. I call this, he's in opposition. He's sitting on a committee that's going to vote on our bill tomorrow. Okay? Now, he is sitting in opposition. He's going to vote no on this bill tomorrow. That gives us a starting point of equal time. This is not a mandate, by the way. This is a starting point of equal time. And then both parents, you start in the middle. Sorry, it's stealing my disguise. You start in the middle, okay? And then the judge listens to the evidence, and he says, okay, you guys live in different states. 50-50 isn't going to work. So, what is your work schedule? What is your travel availabilities? How can we make this work, right? And so, then the judge is going to use the best interest standard and say it's obviously not in the child's best interest to award 50-50. It's just not going to work. It's not feasible. And then the judge has written findings. That's another part of our bill that we're putting in there. So that after he rules this way, he can write down why he did it. And he can say very simply that the parents, one parent lives in Texas, one parent lives in Illinois. 50-50 is not possible, and it is not in the child's best interest. Therefore, I have no other choice looking at the child's best interest to award, let's say, a 70-30 award. And that would be in the child's best interest. Now, the opposition's argument is, and this is what Steve Reich's argument is here too, is we're getting into that real quick, our conversation with him. Angela, it would have been one that you would have been proud of. It was another John Mulrow moment towards the end. Okay. But anyway, so this bill is going to fix these things. A judge is going to be able to simply write in there, it didn't work, they live too far apart. This is why I awarded 70-30, because after looking at the work schedules and the travel and availability of both parents and the schoolings and after looking at all that stuff, I find that 70-30 is going to be what works in this situation. Maybe not what's best for the child, but what works best in this situation. And they hide under the guise of the best interest of the child. No, research shows that the best interest of the child is to have equal time with both parents. And, okay, so equal time with both parents. Well, okay, let me take that back. The research shows anything less than 35% minimum time with one parent is detrimental to that child's upbringing. Okay? It causes depression. It causes anxiety. It causes suicidal thoughts. It causes PTSD, believe it or not. It causes a lot of these mental illnesses that we see happening in our society that we know are an underlying problem to these school shootings. It's easy to blame the inanimate object. Sure. It's hard to blame, or it's easy to blame the inanimate object, and it's hard to blame the mental illness when we don't understand the mental illness. Well, let's look at a few common things. Let's look at all these school shooters. Have any of them been a young girl yet? No? They're pretty much all mostly young boys. Young boys. And if we look back at them, and this is going to be a generous number because I know the numbers are higher, but 75% of those school shooters come from fatherless homes. Okay? Look up the fatherless statistics. I've got other videos where we went through them. Okay? So, anyway, we're talking about House Bill 4113, and I'm talking about committee and how's it going and where do we think the votes are? Do we have the votes to get out of committee? Well, then a couple of our members are not our members, let me take that back. A couple people, a couple associates, a couple people I call friends and family that I've met along my journey in life. Okay? A couple of people, we had a conversation, and we had a couple conversation about a specific representative, Stephen Reich, who is adamantly opposed. Now, in the beginning, he was all for this bill. He believed it was the right thing. Okay? And then I heard that he's adamant opposed to it. He doesn't care what the research says, yada, yada, yada. So I call up there and I start talking to his receptionist. And at the end, I was like, yeah, and let him know that if he doesn't, at least listen to the research and listen to our supports before making a decision, then I'm going to have to let the general public know where he stands on the issue. And she's like, well, would you like me to get him to see if he wants to talk to you? And I said, absolutely, that would be fantastic. So he gets on the phone, and this is something I found very interesting. Okay, 63rd House District. This is all the way up in McHenry County, north of the state, right on the border, okay? As far up as you can get, right? It's about central. They're about directly north of me, all the way up to the border, or directly north of Stephen, okay? So I get on the phone, and I say, hi, my name is, or he gets on the phone, and he says, I didn't call him, Stephen called him. Man, this is confusing. This is hard. I got to practice staying in character. Anyway, so, screw it. Take the glasses off. It's really me. Okay. Anyway, so I get him on the phone. He gets on the phone and he says, hi, is this the same Stephen Westerfield that ran for state representative down in the 99th? I said, well, why, yes, it is. So my brain's already going like, the state representative all the way up in McHenry County knows about little old Stephen here in central Sangamon County, Springfield, Illinois. Why does this guy in McHenry County know about my race here in Sangamon County in central Illinois? It's mind-blowing, honestly. It's kind of shocking. I was kind of impressed. I was like, well, yes, you're speaking to him, sir. Trying to be as nice as I can, okay? So I kind of start off the conversation on the offense. I'm like, look, here's the deal. I appreciate you getting on the phone with me, but I don't appreciate you telling constituents that you're not even willing to consider the research before making your opinion on this bill. And so he goes in and he's like, hold on. Let me first please explain my opposition to this bill. Okay? And he goes on and he's honest. He says, in the beginning, I was in support of this bill. I thought it was a good thing. He's like, but let me tell you something. My son went through a contentious battle. And he fought to get equal rights with his kid. And he lost. And now his ex has moved on to another state. And 50-50, now he's in a position where 50-50 just wouldn't be in the best interest of the child. No. Wrong. Representative. He's now in a position where 50-50 is not possible for the child. Okay? Possible. Not in the best interest, but not possible. Because you won't look at the research, so therefore you don't know. But if you did look at the research, you would find that shared parenting situations after separation and divorce have positive outcomes on children. And anything less than 35% time with one parent is detrimental to the children. So if you really cared about the best interests of the children, as you say, you would look at the research and see what the best interest of children actually is. Because as far as I can tell, you have a degree in accounting and you have a fucking sorry for my language, man. Damn it. I apologize. Please don't. Sorry. Anyway, you have a degree, you have a JD in taxes. So you're a tax attorney and you're an accounting attorney. Okay? You had one situation with family court with your son. Now you're using that one situation that you had with your son to be adamantly opposed to 50-50. The presumption of equal time. Now, it's a rebuttable presumption. This is not a mandate, by the way, guys. This can be overcome. This is not a mandate. So we get to the end of his story, and then he proceeds to tell me, well, we already have a presumption of 50-50. I said, what? Where? Where at? Point me to the statutes where we have this presumption of 50-50. And he says, well, the judges hold this presumption in their courtrooms, in their rulings. They take this presumption into consideration. In what courtroom are you? Okay, what courtrooms are you going to? You just told me that your son fought for 50-50 and didn't get it. And then his ex moved away. Now he's in a position where he couldn't have it and it wouldn't be in the best interest of the child. Well, again, wrong, because it would be in the best interest of the child. It's just not possible to make happen. That's where you're mistaking this stuff. This is where the spoken word means everything, and this is where the four corners of the document of the law mean everything. So he goes on to tell me that no, it's not in the statute. It's in the judge's mind. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, and I'm trying to not be a total jerk. So I didn't want to say, well, how'd that presumption in the judge's mind work out for your son? I wanted to real bad, but I tried to keep it cool. And so then I asked him, I said, so what then, if judges already have this presumption in their mind, and they're overcoming it now, right? Then what would be the problem of having it written in the law? What would be the problem of having it within the four corners of the document? What would be the problem with that? Well, because I don't want to put any loopholes in place that judges have to jump through. And then he goes again to say there's already a presumption of 50-50. And I said, no, there's not. There's not a presumption of 50-50 in the law. Therefore, there is not a presumption of 50-50 being in the child's best interest. You can say it's in this judge's mind or this judge's mind, but you cannot say that it is in every judge's mind. Why? Because then why are we seeing a starting point of every other weekend and 4 hours on Wednesday being the standard visitation rule ordered out in 90% of divorce cases across this state and across this country? He couldn't answer it. He got mad. He said, I really don't appreciate, and I guess maybe I shouldn't yell because, Stephen's crazy, but this guy yelling at me on the phone yesterday really sounded like a crazy guy. He said, I don't appreciate me telling you things and then you telling me no. And I said, well, I don't appreciate you claiming things are in existence that are not within the four corners of the document, that are technically not in existence. They may be existence in some courtrooms, but they are not existent in the law. And what you're telling me is that you don't believe it. You personally, not your constituents, not what your constituents want, the people that voted you in office, not what they think about the situation, but what you think about the situation. You came to a conclusion that you are a no vote because of how you, as an individual, you felt about the situation. You're a representative of the people, not a representative of Stephen Reich and his opinions. You are a representative of the people. And that means you are at the mercy of your voters that elected you. They are your boss, Stephen Reich. Oh, am I getting too loud? Oh my God, I'm getting too loud. People are going to call me crazy again. Oh man. They're probably going to use one of them protective orders that they just passed out of the House again. House Bill 1664. They're probably going to use one of them for the state police to come in here and try to take my guns away from me because of these live videos. Because they're like, look at that dude, he's crazy. But Angela Craig, I'm going to bring you on one of these days, okay? I'm going to bring you on one of these days, and we're going to do a joint live. So you can tell these guys about our experience in John Mulroe's office. And tell me how crazy of a guy he looked behind closed doors. Tell me if he wasn't standing up yelling and screaming and spitting. Tell me if he wasn't angry. He was angry and he was yelling. Even so much as to the fact that when I came out, his legislative aide, Lisa Kativa, apologized to me and she said, Caleb, I've never heard him yell at somebody like that. I don't know what his problem is. Okay? But yet they paint me as a crazy man for yelling on these videos live publicly. But if I do it behind closed doors, nobody cares because all they're looking for is that public perception. They can put their support behind a guy that stands up straight, ties his tie tight, walks and says, yes, sir, do you have any Grey Poupon? I'm standing here and I'm lying my hiney off to you. And I'm going to tell you whatever you want to hear, sir. And when I sip my coffee, I will make sure to put my pinky into the air and I won't slurp. I will sip very eloquently. But then I'm going to close the door and I'm going to get on my phone. And I'm going to call up the escort service and I'm going to have a hooker come drive me from my office to the airport today when I get out of session. But because they look pretty and clean, that makes people feel good about putting their campaign sign in the yard. People didn't want to put Stephen Westerfield campaign signs in their yard because they didn't want to be associated with that crazy guy. That crazy guy. Well, guess what? We're all crazy. The difference between me and these politicians like Stephen Reich, who vote against their constituents wants for their own self-wants because their own self-beliefs, which they were never elected to do in the first place. I know you did, Lisa, and thank you so much, man. It was amazing, and it took very much courage. And I love you, man. I love Chatham, Illinois, dude. I really do. I did not expect, especially after my experiences in Pleasantville and some of my very unpleasant conversations with the people of Pleasantville. I didn't really expect it, but I polled out about 50% of the total votes that I polled came out of Chatham, which was really surprising. I really didn't expect it. But anyhow, okay, so back to this conversation with Stephen Reich. So he tells me that he's voting no on the bill because of his own beliefs. And I don't get into it with him that that's not his job and that's not that. I said this. I said, well, Representative, I'm sorry. And he was cool. He was like, look, I admire your passion on the issue. I admire your knowledge on the issue. I'm just not voting for it because I'm not putting extra loopholes for judges to have to jump through in a law when I believe it already exists. I said, okay, well, I respect your opinion, Representative, and I thank you for your time, but I have no choice now to leave this conversation and go educate the public. And he said, oh, don't worry, I'm going to make my stance publicly known. I said, okay, well, that's good. And I said, and then he said, you're not even in my district. And I said, oh, but I have thousands of people that are. And then he goes on and he says, well, what organization do you run? What group do you run? I said, I don't run any groups. I don't run any organizations. And then he's like, well, you said members. And I said, okay, you're right. I did say members. I apologize. I misspoke. Let me rephrase this. Constituents. I have thousands of constituents in your district that are in support of this legislation, and you're sitting here telling me that you have blatant disregard for their opinions because you don't believe that we need a law? That's not your job, Representative. That is not your job. So then I go into a little bit further and I'm like, well, I said, I'm going to go look at your fundraising and I'm going to look for funding from the ISBA and the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association. You want to talk about a crazy dude? This dude, he flipped. He said, whose name are you looking at? Oh, God, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see his facial expressions because I bet it would have looked something like the impression I'm about to do, by the tone of his voice and the way he came out. Like, whose name are you looking at? I've never gotten money from the ISBA or the Trial Lawyers Associations. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see about that. And then he says, well, I don't care if you've got, or then we went back to, and I said, look, the thing about me, what groups I run or what members I have, that's all irrelevant. I said, the fact is that these people, I'm going to educate them and they are going to vote against you in your next election. And he said, and I, not even kidding, word for word, he said, oh, well, if my view and my vote cost me their votes, well, then that's a risk that I'm willing to take. So he is willing to lose the votes of you people that elected him, that support this bill. He is willing to lose your votes. What does that say? He does not give and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and use an expletive here because I believe in expletives as emphasis and I just can't really find a better word here. He does not give a shit about his constituents. He has no concern in the world for his constituents. Okay? What else does he not have any care in the world for? He has no care in the world for the Republican Party platform. that states that we believe that parents and not bureaucrats like the Illinois State Bar Associations, the domestic violence industry, and the trial lawyer association industry. Okay? He puts their interests above the interests of not only the voters in his district, but Republicans across the state of Illinois by having blatant disregard for our party's platform. So in short, guys, that's what I got today. I don't know how short it was. It may have been about a half hour or so, probably, I'm guessing. Stephen will be out of Facebook jail in another 26 days. So, there's that. And once we do that, we're going to start doing these shows weekly. I'm going to start bringing on another guest every week. We'll have you guys start commenting, giving us topics that you guys would like us to cover. I'll try to find somebody in opposition or in the affirmative, and maybe I'll take the opposition. I'll take the negative approach. We'll try to get some real debate and discussion going on. 50 minutes. Wow. Okay, time flies. All right, well, as usual, you guys, man, I love you guys. God bless you guys. People over politics. Until next time, deuces.